All right. Welcome everyone. So before we begin, I want to take a moment of silence as we acknowledge the heartbreaking tragedy that occurred last night on the campus of Michigan State University. We stand with all impacted and keeping our friends and colleagues in our thoughts during this very difficult time. We send our condolences to the loved ones that were lost and to the entire MSU community. Thank you. All right. My name is Jamillya Hardley. I am an assistant director in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and I will be today's MC for a very special discussion with our very own GRCC's leaders as we dive into a Black Women's Survival Kit with an emphasis on our leadership, learning about our experiences and what that means for our self-care. So without further ado, we will begin. Starting with Vikki Cooper, please introduce yourself, talk about your role here at the college, years, primary focus areas or job responsibilities, and then lastly, what does Black History Month mean to you personally?
Greetings all, I'm Vikki Cooper and I am an English faculty here at GRCC. I'm also the Director of Developmental Education here at GRCC, and I've been here, I think 18, I don't know, maybe 18 years. I think that's right. I can't remember, somewhere 18 or 19. And Black History Month, I mean, I always think about all of us with Carter G. Woodson, right? It started from a day, week, a month, and here we are. And I think it's more than just a month. It is part of history, is a part of, I think of the term Sankofa. We can't do any planning ahead until we look back and remember our past, because that informs our future. So that's what it means to me.
Thank you. Dr. Henderson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daisy Henderson. I am a sociologist by training. So I teach in the social sciences department and I teach sociology at GRCC. I've been at GRCC for the last 5 years and I've been part of the faculty. And so the last question asked was, what does Black History Month mean to you personally? For me, one of the things I can say I like about Black History Month is because it allows you to focus on not just people who were born in the United States, but other people from the diaspora who came to the United States and contributed to the development of the US. So whenever Black History Month comes along and I'm reminded, I'm looking for people, not just here, but all over the diaspora from the Caribbean, Africa, and other parts of the world who have contributed something to the US. And I always find that there's something new that I learn each time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sophia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia Brewer, and I am a librarian here at GRCC. And Black history, I don't really like to limit myself to Black History Month, but Black history, period, is important to me. And it's important to me because I really do. I stand on the shoulders of so many people that came before me. And some of the things that we have the privilege of enjoying today were hard fought by our ancestors, by people from our past. So I make a deliberate attempt by joining organizations and being part of clubs and groups that celebrate our history all year round. And so when Black History Month, the month of February comes around, it's just an opportunity to share the learning that I've learned all year.
Thank you so much. Denise?
Hi, I'm Denise Jones, and I'm the coordinator of Student Success and Retention here at GRCC. And I've been here in 2 days. It will be 8 years, which I cannot believe it'll be 8 years. And my role here is to I work with the early alert. So instructors and staff, they submit alerts, and then I kind of work with students and connect them with resources and things. So I was thinking about the question of what does Black history mean to me? And I guess it means acknowledging who we are as a people and what we've gone through, and just not forgetting the past and helping us to know that we have a hope for the future, the things that we'll walk through, that we just have this fantastic opportunity to continue to walk through that and to continue to help the world to see that Black history is everyone's history. So it's just not limited to who we are. It's limited to everybody because we contribute to help this be the country and the world that it's meant to be. It's continuing to evolve, but that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, Mursalata.
Greetings, everyone. Mursalata Muhammad. My primary role for the past 22 years, I think, is as a faculty member in the English department. Currently, I'm serving as the interim associate dean for the School of Business and Industry. And so I have the opportunity to learn a lot right now. And Black History Month, what it means to me personally, for me, it's an opportunity to extend the conversation. It reminds me of like, if you're, in discussion groups in the class and you get to be the leader, what are you going to talk about? So like in our world is that opportunity to continue that conversation. It's going on all the time, but it's the opportunity to say, hey, more people come into it and see if we can extend that conversation.
All right, thank you so much. So we're going to begin with our first set of questions. And for our attendees, we do have a question and answer box for you as well. So if something is said or if a question pops up, please feel free to drop a question in the chat here. And we will definitely have different breaks to get to those questions throughout our conversation today. So thank you. All right, we're starting with Mursalata, Sophie, and Dr. Henderson. And we're talking about those tough moments. So reminiscing, thinking about some of those harder days when we're facing adversity. Can you share some examples of how you have used self-care to empower yourself and build resilience in the face of adversity?
I'll start. I can't say that this is an area that I am especially skilled in. So I only recently, I think, came to a way to strategically use self-care in those moments. And when I say recently, I'm talking about in the last 5 years or so. Before that, I would just fall into the pieces that I am, into the mostly women group who would catch me and be like, okay, stop doing this, and this. And I would listen to them. It was most of the time. But having that kind of network, and some of the, my colleagues are here, the people here at GRCC, and then also in my non-work life. So I can't, I would have to be told by trusted people that you need to stop and take care of yourself. And the more I started to listen to that, the better I got at it. So I can say in the last 5 years, I can say now, I do yoga, I drink tea. That's it.
Okay, so I guess I'll chime in. For me, I like Mursalata said, it's still a learning process, right? It's like the more you go through, the more resilient you become if you apply those self-care things. I mean, so you learn more and more about yourself every time you go through something new. And so if you apply those steps to caring for yourself, and that looks different for everybody. It could be talking to friends. It could be talking to a counselor. It could be getting on your knees and praying, which is my go-to. I have to get in that Bible. Every answer is always, I get an answer when I read my Bible. And so sometimes it's like closing the door, getting in a quiet space and just shouting at the Lord, Lord, what are you doing? What's happening to me? Help me, please. And I always come out of those spaces feeling better because I allow myself to sit in those emotions. I allow myself to sit in that adversity, and then I try to learn from that adversity, try to twist it around by using common sense, by using my going to that place and asking myself, what can I do to make this better? What can I do to grow out of this experience? And I'm reading a book from one of our former students, Raydell Bonville, and he says, there's a quote in this book that I'm reading from him, and he says, stuff doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. It happens for us to learn, for us to figure out how to deal with it the next time. So I'll end with that.
Thank you so much. We'll get that book details from you later for sure. Dr.
Right. Yes. So, the other two people on the panel did share a lot of information. And to personalize it, what I can say is one of the things that I do, I'm a person who I internalize a lot. So I'm always thinking about what's going on with me and trying to raise my self-awareness of where I am right now, especially if I'm going through a tough time. And Professor Muhammad spoke about having friends. I have trusted friends who will be like, okay, something is going on, and so you need to do something about it. And what I also do, I listen to these friends. But I can speak of recently, like in 2022, I went through a tough time emotionally and personally because of personal things in my life. And I realized that just talking with friends wasn't sufficient. So because I know myself and I try to be very self-aware, like I said. So because of the issue, what I did is I started reading books and reading articles and going to YouTube and finding vetted information so that I could make myself aware of what is going on with me. And I think that through that process, I was able to deal with some of the things that I was dealing with. The other thing I will say, which sometimes we don't want to talk about, if you've tried everything and you feel like you're not getting better, there's therapy. And you seek out someone who understands you and who will help you get back on track. It's not just about sharing all the details about how you feel, but that person helps you understand how you feel and get you back on track so you can be that person that you knew you always were before. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. This next one is around the idea or the concept of us as Black women holding multiple roles, wherever that may be. And this is for Vikki, Marjorie, and Denise. So in thinking about multiple roles, and it may be natural caregiving, or whatever the case may be, we put ourselves often last in recognizing our capacity. Walk us through your thought process when you realize that it is not a sign of weakness or failure to take off your superwoman cape sometimes and take a break.
I guess I'll go first. I think that we need to take our superwoman cape off more often, right? Because we are not superwomen. I think that we do the whole Black girl magic, or we're this and that, and it's not. Sometimes that magic can be to our detriment, right? Because we I'm just going to be honest, we do more because we think more is expected of us, right? I think that one thing that I have learned is that my job and my position at GRCC does not define who I am as a person. And I think that you have to walk in that always. Like that is your job. But it's not it's not what defines who you are, right? You can be a mother, an auntie, wife, all of those things, caregiver to your parents. But unless you take care of yourself first, I remember my mom, so I have an illness and I was diagnosed a long time ago. And I remember my mother told me, she said, look, if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to leave here and somebody else is going to step into your job. They're going to marry your husband, take care of your kids. It was like a wake up call. Not that they probably will marry my husband, but I'm just saying, they don't know what they're getting into. But seriously, when you think about it, that's what we do. We put on that cape and we're like, yes. And we go in our office and scream and holler and come out and have the cape back on, right? So I think that it is just being very honest with ourselves about who we are, and what we can and cannot do, and being honest about that. Like right now, it's a lot, so if it's something extra, being okay. My mother, and again, my mom, she said, you better start learning how to say no. And you can do it nicely, but you just have to set parameters where you say, I got to take care of myself first. So that is a huge, to the point where I probably have said no recently more than I should have. Because I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But what it hasn't is allowed me to heal, right? In all kinds of different ways that I didn't even know I needed. So I guess that's it. Like just walking who you are and not who you think others expect you to be.
So I was thinking about this question only because I did not think that I was wearing a superwoman cape. I just kind of thought that you just do what you need to do and you just keep it moving. And so those were some of the things that I always did. I never stopped to reflect on wearing this cape and it's too much. So I've learned over time, and I'll say while I was in school, I had to meet with someone. She was somewhat like a mentor. And I was kind of giving her a story of some things that went on with my life. And I shared with her that, I was trying to get my kids, back to Michigan and different things like that. And she gave me the scenario. And it's the thing that we hear almost all the time if you fly. And we all know the story when you fly. Flight attendant comes, we're not always paying attention to what she says, but it is when you get, the mask falls down, you put it on yourself first. Because if I try to put it on my kids, I'm going to pass out trying to do that, but you put it on yourself. And that gave me an awareness that there was something that I did that I thought I was saving my kids. And when she gave me that scenario and I found out that I actually saved myself, that I put that mask on myself first. And then the benefits flowed down to my children. So I've learned to work on boundaries, and those boundaries do help with me taking off that cape. And the key thing that I always try to share with my students and my kids, it is actually a strength to have the weaknesses. We're not, we don't have to know everything, but it's a strength to say, you know what, I don't know everything. But I can learn it and I can gain it. And you know what, I need to just stop and rest. I found strength in that, because that is a way of saving yourself. Because I'm noticing I cannot run on empty because I have nothing to pour out to anyone. So if I can keep getting Denise filled up, I can pour out and bless everyone else around me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe we have a question from our attendees. Aaron?
Absolutely. So I have a question talking more about the concept of saying no. And the way I think this person is asking the question is essentially, how do I delegate? So asking for, okay, so you want me to say no, but this thing still needs to get done. So how do we delegate those things to other people?
I can respond to that. I think that when you're saying no doesn't mean that you're not going to do it in some cases, right? It just means that if you're talking to your direct supervisor or whomever, you let them know, okay, I have, and in a very respectful manner, just ask them, okay, I have these things. How do you want me to prioritize them, right? So you're saying no, but you're letting them know my plate is full, right? I have 20 things to do and I have to have them done in a day. And now here's 21. And I like, where does this fall on the priority list? And so maybe instead of you trying to, you ask for help, which is another issue that is very hard for a lot of us, right? Because we feel like if we ask for help or ask a question, that we're disrupting, or we're, how dare you ask, or it means I don't know something. And it's like we said earlier, it's okay not to know. But I think that so there's different instances when you can say no, or maybe just, well, hold on, this is what I have to do right now. And then maybe as your position, wherever you are right now in your position, you might say no also means, like, I'll say this, take a day off. Like, we have sick days. Why do we think that someone's going to look down on us if we take a sick day? If you're sick or you don't feel well, Aaron, I don't even know what you're saying over there, but I see you. Take a sick day. Take that day and do and when we talked about emotional self-care, right? I want to say one other thing. There's something called post-traumatic growth, right? We talk about post-traumatic stress. There's post-traumatic growth. And so sometimes after those stressful situations, we learn from those things and we grow. We need to start looking at the growth part more the actual stress was traumatic, but then how are we growing from that experience? And I think if we share some of those things with our peers, with other women on campus, when they're in crisis, instead of going right into the crisis, listen, and then help them grow. That's another way of just kind of that coping again. I didn't say that earlier, but I meant to say, because that's how I've learned how to, okay, hold on. It's not as bad as in the moment it seems bad, but it's probably not as bad. And I need to sit and be still and just listen just for a minute. Let me just think this through instead of reacting to it. So again, to that no question, the no, yes, you can say no, but instead of saying no, you might say, well, hold on, this is what I'm doing and this is what I have. How would you like me to prioritize that, right? If it's your own personal priorities, then okay, look, I got to pay bills or do whatever. Those priorities have to happen. So I think that's all. But I do think that we need to learn how to do that gracefully and not feel guilty about it.
Thank you so much. Aaron, I believe we have another question. No? Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm learning so much. I'm just taking notes as I'm listening. So this is good. Thank you. All right. Next question is for Denise, Mursalata, and Dr. Henderson. So this is kind of taking you back to your childhood, growing up, back in the day, reminiscing on some of those days. And the concept is self-love. So thinking about your childhood, were there things that you learned growing up about self-love that still resonate with you now as an adult?
I guess I have to speak because my name was mentioned first. I'm going to be honest if I had to. So self-love is something that I'm still working on. I feel like it's evolving in my life. All along when I was young, just being transparent, I compared myself to other people. So it was I looked at them and I never saw anything of value within myself. So I am growing to gain that self-love. So it is taking some time. And so those are some things that I'm learning is Denise is okay. We're flawed beings, so it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to be human, because that doesn't make you the odd duck in the group, because you're human and things happen to you. So I want to say that is still something that is evolving. I've watched a lot of women at the opposite. I've watched them destroy themselves and just beat themselves down and just talk to themselves negatively. So I'm learning to be kind to Denise, have grace for myself. Those are some things that I feel like is just a huge part of self-love, and just not beating, because I watch adults in my life say negative things. So I thought that was okay to do. So now I'm starting to see those negative things, they start to create a generational curse. And I'm wondering, why my daughters and why are people around me acting that way and saying those things, is because that is the thing that I highlighted to them. So self-love is knowing that you weren't a mistake and appreciating who you are and embracing that and letting your light shine, because when your light shines, other people will appreciate and they want to be attracted to who you are. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, I heard my name called for this question, so I want to answer it. When I was a kid, my younger brother would always say this to me: who do you love most in your mother's kids? Right? And I was like, why is he always asking me that? But it took me a while to truly understand that when he's talking about who do you love most in your mother's kids, the answer should be yourself. Meaning that you shouldn't be focused. It doesn't mean you should be selfish, right? It doesn't mean that you should just be self-indulgent. But what I learned from that was there are times when you need to focus on you. And there are times when you need to focus on your health, your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health. And that has resonated with me throughout all of my life, because I find I'm a person who likes to give, who's always concerned about other individuals. And sometimes you can give too much of yourself and you're left with nothing. And so that statement, and I'm X amount of years now, and that statement still resonates with me, that I always have to think about myself at some point, especially when I find I'm giving and giving and giving. And like Denise said, you're on empty. And so you always have to remember that. Think about yourself, love yourself, care about yourself, because when you do that, then you can give. If you have nothing, then you can't give anything. So self-love is about loving yourself and making sure that you are at that point that you can give to others, that you can share with your family, that you can share part of yourselves with your friends, with your students, with your colleagues, and so on. And that's what self-love means to me. And that statement has stayed with me, and it continues to resonate with me.
I'll share. So childhood, that's, not an interesting time. I have 11 older siblings. So I'm number 12 of 13. I have 6 brothers and 6 sisters. And I had a brother who's just about a year or so younger than me. So I was very fortunate to be born last, and fortunate that my brothers and sisters saw me as a gift. And so with what I saw growing up was very, my childhood was very like raw and upfront, like nobody pulled any punches. It was very realistic, but at the same time, I seem to get, me and the youngest, we seem to get all of the good, like love and feelings that my brothers and sisters may have lacked. Like they just poured this sort of into me and my younger brother. And so I was very fortunate to grow up just having a really like good sense of being comfortable with feeling wanted and feeling cared for, even in the dysfunction that existed in how we grew up. So that what resonated with me is even broken people can love like fully to an extent. And so I just imagine if the people, if my mother and my father and my brothers and sisters who are older than me, if they gotten what they needed, just like how awesome the world would have like been like just around. And so the thing that sort of resonated with me was that I just feel like I was filled up as a child with a sense of positivity and feeling and good. And I mean like from like birth to like 9, because then you get irritating to everybody by the time you're like 7 or 5. So I've had this wealth, and I really didn't have to start really figuring that out until probably in my late 40s. And I realized how fortunate I was to have had them pour so much into me. And not really seeing, good examples of them doing that for themselves. So for me, self-love, that what resonates with me is that you have to, you have to save the people you can save, which means you have to save yourself first. So, and then once you can get yourself to a place, you bring the ones you can, and the ones you can't, that's just the fact. If you can't get more people doing this with you, and I say that because, like I said, my mom, she would get to a point where everything was just overwhelming for her, and so she would leave, but she would take the 2 youngest one with her. So she was like, we would go, and I could see her taking the babies that she could until she could get herself together and then come back into like the chaos. And so that's why I'm like, when you save yourself, you have the potential to pull someone, but you have to know when to stop. And I can't say I'm good at knowing when to stop, but I know I should. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So a couple of you already mentioned the concept of support system and mentorship and having others kind of support you, especially during those difficult times. So the value in mentorship, and this is for Sophia, Marjorie, and Vikki. Highlight some amazing support systems or concepts of support system, mentors, or resources that you have personally benefited from during your personal and professional journey.
So, I always think of, we have mentors. I have been really blessed to have wonderful mentors that have kind of like Marjorie just said, have either they decided that they were my mentors, right? Like I think I've done for some people, like, hey, but also your mentors may come in different. Your mentors are not always going to be a female, right? They're not always going to be someone who looks exactly like you. And sometimes those, I'm not going to say they're the best mentors, but sometimes those are the mentors who can move you into a different space, and they can provide a different insight. Because if you continue to surround yourself with people who are just like you, I don't think you're going to grow. So I think it's really, and I'll be honest, a couple of my best mentors have been white men. Sometimes they're kind of gruff. I'm thinking of one a few years ago, and we gardened together. And he said, "Hey, you know what? You need to get your act together. You need to be an administrator." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." I mean, we argued, right? I'm like, "I don't want to." But it was him seeing that potential in me, right? That I probably like, and we still argue, but that, about other things. But it, it, I think we need to be open. So if your mentor isn't always who you think it's going to be, it's not always going to be, whoever, your sister, girlfriend, or this older lady. It might be someone you never expect, but you need to be open to receiving and hearing what they're saying to you. And I'm sure they're going to help you grow, right? It's about growth, and remember also, a mentor is not the person, like Margie just said, who's going to always pour positive affirmations into you. They might do like one of my mentors who's, she always said, "Girl, let me pull your coattail," which means I'm like, "Oh Lord." She's going to tell me that I did something or said something that I probably shouldn't have. But she always does it in love, or she'll say, "I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but," and then I already know she's trying to tell me what to do. So I think that we have to understand that mentors come in all shapes and sizes. And we have to be open to acknowledging the fact that there's a whole bunch of people who have good hearts and they want to help.
Okay, so I agree with what both Marjorie and Vikki has already said, but I'll add that being on a college campus and being at an academic institution, oftentimes we think that because we're the adults and that we are the instructors, that we hold all the information. But I have learned more from the students here than I could ever. I mean, how to treat them, about how they want to be treated. I mean, and just like I said, I am reading a book from a student who wanted me to read his book before he releases it, and he is dropping some major nuggets in that book. I mean, I have read that book and I couldn't put it down because of I'm like, where did he learn this? I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I think when we think about mentors and we think about mentorship, I think the first thing that we have to do is be open for learning. Be open and ready to learn from every and anybody. And so, like Vikki said, mentors come in all shapes, colors, sizes, I mean, from all kinds of backgrounds. And I think when we're open for learning, we can take advantage of all of those different types of mentors.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I second that mentorship, especially the ones who kind of keep that foot up your behind when you need to, and tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So I can appreciate those statements for sure. So thank you for sharing. I believe we have another question from the audience.
Absolutely. So there is a question more about how we see Black staff at GRCC specifically supporting each other on campus. And do we think that that's occurring? And then if not, how can Black staff and faculty start to support each other on campus?
I'll chime in to just based on some of the things I've attempted to do in my time here. I mean, first find out where you are and when people are around. I know that's a challenge given, after wherever we are right now with COVID and people being remote and not remote. I find it just very hard to figure out where people are, like physically in their locations. But so most of what I'm speaking to now was what I used to do. One of the things I used to do was reserve time at the Heritage restaurant. You gotta get those reservations in quick because they fill up really fast. And I like tea and dessert because I don't usually get dessert in my regular everyday life. So I would go to the Heritage for tea and dessert, and I really enjoy that. And then I would invite people that I would like to talk to, say, and to tea and dessert at the Heritage. And believe it or not, I might seem like a real friendly person, and I am, but I don't meet new people easily. I need a reason and a context to do that. And so if I invite someone to the Heritage, or like now, Foodology is, well, when they're open, is here on campus. If people are present, they have to eat, maybe it is something to get them out. And I don't like really large groups of folks. So if I invite one person, if I did that a few times this semester, I could connect and then maybe have extended conversations. One other thing I used to do was, if there's new faculty or staff, or we have these awards things that would come out and they would talk about it in GRCC Today, I would also send people an email, be like, hey, I saw you got something. You don't know me. I know this is weird, but I see you got something. Congratulations. So just things like that to try to connect, because a lot of the things some of the things we talked about, people being very overworked or just trying to do so many things, we're doing that at work too. And inviting someone for a quick coffee or something might give them a way to tap out for a moment and connect.
I would just like to add on to what Mursalata said. I do think that there are opportunities for women, since we're all women here, for Black women on campus to get to know each other and to assist each other. So I've been at GRCC this is my 5th year. And I remember coming in and women of color actually just saying hi to me, sharing their phone numbers with me, so that now some of us are friends, even though we've gotten very busy. But that has happened to me. And I'm a person, if it happens to me, I try to model it also. So you try to reach out to people. If you see a new face, you reach out to them. Sometimes you find out that they've been there a long time. You just never, met up with them before. And I think there's a scripture that says, if you want to have friends, you have to show yourself to be friendly. So be friendly to other people, because you never know what can come out of that relationship, or that just saying hi, like Marjorie was talking about earlier on. So the opportunities are there. I just think that we sometimes have to make ourselves available and open to those opportunities so that they happen. So if we're always introverted, if we're always to ourselves, then we sometimes don't see those opportunities to connect with other women of color or people of color on campus. So for the person who asked that question, I would say yes, there are opportunities for that. I would just encourage you to make yourself available and open, and you never know what could happen. And I work in the social sciences department. I'm a sociologist, so please, you can look me up and I'll be willing to take you out for dessert and tea, like Mursalata said.
Thank you so much. All right, couple more questions here. So the concept of toolkit, and it's in the title, and something that we would hope that we can hear and share some of those concepts of what we can walk away with, especially when it comes to things like our current climate. We mentioned facing adversity, thinking about discrimination, microaggressions, or just very unjust situations. So for Sophia, Denise, and Dr. Henderson, think about all those things I kind of shared and talk about what's in your kit, or what are the things that you rely on as essential items that you consider to be a part of your Black woman's survival kit.
Okay, I can go. I have a lot of things in my kit. The first one I would say is, when things happen to me, I I have some friends who I consider to be my safe spaces. So I can go to and vent. Sometimes you have all this emotion inside of you. So something happens, I can talk to them, I can share with them, and they listen. Sometimes you don't need a solution. You just need to get all the emotions out. So I have that in my toolkit, and I have some friends from childhood. It is a wonderful thing if you can hold on to friends from childhood and you have them today. If you can't, you just find friends who can be there for you that way. So I vent to my friends, I share with them. The other thing I've learned throughout my time is some situations happen and you can't control them. Some people behave in a manner you can't control them. You can only control your own reactions to what has happened to you. So a lot of times when people do things that really hurt you, you have to be forgiving. And the forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. If you hold on to anger and hate, etc., it really hurts you, not them. Because a lot of times when people do things, they walk away and they look like they're happily enjoying their lives. And you're the one who's angry and can't get through things. So in my toolkit, I've learned to forgive. And forgiveness doesn't happen just like that. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's a process. It's something that you work on all the time. And I try to be very focused on that, because it's not about them. It's about me being okay with all the things that I face, with all the isms and everything else, discrimination that you face, or unjust situations that you find yourself in. The other thing I've learned in my toolkit is to create my boundaries. Some people will continue to hurt you and walk over you, and you create your boundaries. And boundaries, I've learned, sometimes they don't feel good when you create them, but you have to know why you're doing them. And when you create those boundaries, always remind yourself, despite how you feel about them, why you created the boundaries and how they're essential for you. The other things that I do is, like we talk about self-care, I journal. Journaling helps me identify the emotions that I feel. And so I can deal with them much better. Because if it's all up in my head, it's just really emotional. But when I write it down, I can see what it is. And another thing I love about journaling is I can go back and see how I've grown through some of the things that I went through. So some of the things that have challenged me, some of the things I see in the news, some of the things I've gone through on campus and in my personal life. So I do that. And I've learned to walk away. Sometimes you just don't say anything. You just leave it alone and you walk away. And you're like, I am not fighting that battle today. I'll pick it up another day. So I always tell myself, you pick which hill you want to die on. That's what I tell myself. And sometimes you're like, this is not worth it. I'm just going to walk away. And it's kind of, I will say it. So sometimes I will look at a situation, I'll look what's going on, and then I look at the person's position or place in my life. And if I don't see them in my future, they're not part of my future, I can walk away and just let it go, because I don't have to fight every battle. So these are some of the things that I have in my toolkit. There is a lot more, like my oil humidifier that I use for relaxation, but all of these things are part of self-care, and those things should be in our toolkit. We create what is specific for us, so that we can survive everything that we go through as best as we can.
So I'm going to say ditto to everything that Dr. Henderson just said, because all of those, especially the journaling, I have to write it down. I have tablets and tablets and tablets of just writing down my feelings at the end of the day. And then I'm also going to add is my faith, my belief in God is in my toolkit, and prayer is in my toolkit. So getting down on my knees and submitting to the all powerful and knowing that I am not that I am not perfect, and getting down on my knees and accepting that and moving on from that. But also the idea of when we face adversity is just trying to learn about how people got to that point. So as a librarian, I go dig in. I start reading, I start researching, I start trying to figure out, okay, why did they say that? And trying to answer or at least find questions to ask in my research, right? What did I just experience? So researching and journaling and really just trying to concentrate and come up with some answers for myself, right? And so but also trying to understand the history of whatever that's troubling me. Like asking myself, when was the last time I felt this way and why did I feel this way? And then trying to understand that and build the capacity to get past those things, adding on to that resilience that we talked about earlier.
So some things that are in my toolkit is it's quite a few things. So there is something that I say that's been a help to me is when I'm going through sometimes a tough situation, stopping and saying, bless them, change me. I say that quite a bit when it's just because I can't control other people. I can't control people, places, things, situations. I can't control them. And knowing that I can't control them, that helps me to see, bless them, change me. I do in the morning, I do quiet time. So within that quiet time, that's my prayer, that's my journaling, that's just sitting in the start of my day, just because I don't know what I'm going to encounter. So I surrender that to a day. I have a friend that a person somewhat like a mentor that I talk to every morning and talk over things that my day might look like and things like that. So I can, be on track for when I get out there and be ready to face the day. So prayer is a part of it. Forgiveness definitely is a part of it, but I do struggle, sometimes with the forgiveness. And then sometimes I've learned to sit in the uncomfortableness, which is something we don't enjoy doing. We want to solve it and everything, but you have to learn to sit in that thing. And no matter how uncomfortable it is, sit in it, because you can learn from that. And just knowing that things will work out, because people show themselves in how they are, and I can't solve everybody's problem. I can't. And that is just not my job. Only thing that Denise can change is how I react to it. And so in my toolkit, like I said, there is prayer in there. There is, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to tell you, there are times I have to have certain music on that helps strengthen me. I've got a collection of songs that if I need something that's going to empower a sister, I pull out some Fantasia. I even got some songs about Aretha that I didn't even know the song existed until I saw her movie. So there are songs that I find that's going to strengthen me. There's gospel. There's all kinds of things that I pull. And me, I like to get out there and walk, especially like when it's warm. If I've got something that I'm dealing with that I need to just step away from, if I can take a walk around the block, that helps me. I can walk, I can pray, I can fuss, I can listen to an audiobook. I can do all of those things when I walk, because that's going to help me calm down. Then I can walk back in and I can face another situation and get through it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Oh yeah, go
Okay.
for it.
My mother-in-law told me this a while ago, and this is what really has helped me to keep my mouth shut sometimes. And she says, does it need to be said? Oh, hold on. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by you? And does it need to be said right now? Right? Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by you? And does it need to be said right now? And she said, just sit with that for a second. And if you can answer yes, like I have to, or it needs to happen right now. She said, but otherwise, just be quiet. I think, Denise just said that. And you can talk about it later, but those three things have they've saved me. Because I have a quick tongue sometimes, and I can be sarcastic. And, Mursalata's laughing because I'll tell you this, one time we were in a meeting and I went off and Mursalata said, and she said, I tried to pull you back. And I did does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? And Mursalata said, I saw her, she tried to pull me back. And she said, when I saw your face, she said, I just sat back and said, well, this is getting ready to happen. And sometimes it does, right? And it's not a good or a bad, and sometimes it does need to be said, right? Or you do need to address something right then and there, especially with microaggressions sometimes, because if you don't, then people don't even, in that moment, then they don't understand why you were offended. Because if you take too much time and come back, they're like, oh, well, what happened? Because then other people in the group who might have been, or who saw it or heard it or whatever, and you don't have to be mean. You can just, use I feel, this is how I saw it. I felt those kinds of words instead of, and it doesn't even, you don't even have to, maybe you can personalize it or not, but just remember that, like, those three things have saved my career. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now? That's it.
I'm taking notes. I am taking notes because I also have a quick tongue. Yep, I can't keep my mouth shut. It just pathologically falls out sometimes. And also the thing about microaggressions, one of my favorite ways to combat language microaggressions without personalizing it, without even really calling anybody out, is using the phrase, pick a new word. If it's a language-based microaggression, pick a new word. And 95% of the time, they know exactly which word we're talking about. Whatever sentence, whichever community is being discriminated against with the language that's being used, most of the time, the person that's using that language knows the word. And if not, it's usually a pretty quick explanation. And they're just like, oh, did I hurt someone's feelings? Did I say something discriminatory? Please tell me. I don't want to do that anymore. So usually it comes off as helpful. But even in the moment of calling somebody out, like I've had somebody do that to me. I'm just like, wait, what? Did I say something? And they're just like, absolutely, you did. So it's super easy, and it doesn't necessarily have to take a full, big, long conversation to call someone out on that. So thank you for bringing that up. But let's kind of go back to a question that came from the audience talking about friends and support systems. So a question came after kind of that conversation earlier that we had about who is in our friends, who is in our support system, and the people that we have. But how do we discern those people that need to be within our circle? And how do we discern maybe when it's time to get rid of folks?
All right, I think we have time for one more. So that being said, and it's something that Marjorie just shared that I wanted to combine two questions as we wrap up here. And the goal and the concept was to create this space with being newer, only being here a year, and coming from another institution. Having a space like this is what helped me grow, what challenged me, what pushed me. I was able to learn from a lot of different people on campus. And just like this space right now today, I've taken so many notes and I've scratched off all, so many different things, trying to soak it all in. So I'm so glad to hear that some of you share some of that same insight with how important this space is to have here at GRCC. So the two-part question that I have is, and this is for anyone can chime in. How do you continue to role model or encourage or teach our younger generation or generations younger than you? And then the second part, which is not really related, is how can GRCC continue to support you? And anyone can jump in.
I'll jump in. So the first thing I like to say is I think one of the things that we could do is to know our history, right? And to be able to share our history. A lot of what Marjorie just talked about is stuff that we have struggled with. Our culture has been demonized in a way that has impacted generations of our of people just like us, right? And so as we move forward and as we try to cultivate the next generation, we need to share those stories. We need to know our history and then share them with others. I mean, we need to share our toolkit. We need to reach out to people that look like us when we see them on this campus and say, and just let them know, I see you. I see you. And we need to, I think we also need to, I mean, in order for us to keep growing, we need to continue to care for ourselves.
I want to chime in. I think I try to think and make this organized, so I just want to let y'all know that before it comes out, how it comes out. But I think this goes back to, how do you figure out, discern your support group? And then I think about what GRCC can do. Well, okay, first of all, I think about, and I can be a very literal person. So GRCC is an institution. It's nothing but it's filled with a bunch of people. GRCC is its people. We are GRCC. And if we can't get our colleagues to see they are the institution, we make this culture here. And if the majority of our colleagues are comfortable not questioning how they interact with each other, I'm not sure, what GRCC can do except for have people in those positions, in various positions, where one of the things we practice increasing is seeing each other and hearing each other and being accountable for our actions. And that goes directly against ego, like everybody's ego. I have a huge ego, except for we talk to each other. My ego is like Billie Holiday's Good Morning Heartache. It sits down across from me. I'm like, look, what are we going to do today? Are we going to go out here and are you leading or I'm leading? Like, what's going on? So for me, that caused me to be present. So I think GRCC can put in, can start to see the people here. How are we present with each other? And that's the thing that is really hard to do, is be present in the moment. This goes with what people were saying, that sometimes you just have to sit in it. When you are present, you can't do anything about what's coming next and what didn't already happen. You have to be there and wrestle with some things. And then when you do that, you have like a multiple of options. If you can stop and be present in the moments of things that give you. And I think a couple people said that we have quick, we might be quick-witted and quick, tongues ready to come, but that's because of what we experience in life. You know what? If they cut, you got to be ready to come. You got to be ready to come really, really quick. And that's so habitual. So it's something that, to stop and say, hey, you know what? I can still cut you down tomorrow. Maybe it shouldn't be in this email right now. So that everyone, is going to, go and see. So I think that's for me, is to be present and also go to a third party. There is a myth that Black and poor people do not seek therapy and counseling. In my experience, is because you don't have any insurance coverage to pay for it. So one of the things that I do to help discern is sometimes my friends can't do it. My colleagues here at GRCC, their bandwidth is burned out with the same thing. And yes, they have said, Mursalata, nope, not today. You just, because we burnt out too. So I advocate, finding therapy or counseling, especially if you're in a position at GRCC and you have their insurance, use it. I use my insurance for everything. I'm like, what? Acupuncture? Maybe. I have insurance now. Let's go see if this works. So and I share this with you. In 2018, I went to find a therapist in West Michigan, which was a very hard thing to do for a Black woman who is Muslim, and trying to find somebody that I can talk to. And I went for one reason. I said, I need to not quit my job. In 2018, I went to therapy because GRCC paid for it. I paid for it through the insurance, $5 copay. When we sat down, I was like, look, and I did find maybe the one or two Buddhists. He happens to be a Buddhist. Like, okay, that works. And I'm like, I need to not quit. I need a way to make it to retirement because this is where I am. I can't let the culture of what's happening from a handful of people get me to walk away for what I work hard for and these benefits. And so that's what I did. I went and sat down. I'm like, we need to, and well, you can see it worked because I'm still here. I did not quit GRCC. But having that one focus thing actually was the doorway for me to explore other things. Being able to decide with a neutral party helped me walk away from some bad relationships. Sometimes you can't do it by yourself and your friends can't do it. So I'll leave with that. Like, if you have a job and it has insurance, use your insurance for everything, acupuncture and therapy. And maybe it'll help you keep your job, make that better, help you see yourself. And maybe find another one, maybe find something that you should be doing with your time. But it's not an easy thing, and it takes work. So being present, and people use your insurance. So
can I quickly say this? As a mentor, mentee, or just as a GRCC employee, for all of us, continue to walk in your authentic selves, right? Continue to be who you are. Do not allow others around you to encourage you to not be who you are. Please do this, because that is how we will continue with diversity at GRCC, right? There are a lot of Black women, right here today. None of us are the same. And so I think it's so important for us to continue to walk in your authentic self. I was born and raised here in Grand Rapids, which I know some of the rest of you were as well. And so in Grand Rapids, we understand this thing called West Michigan nice, right? We've learned how to walk around it, sit and listen to it. Just think about what that means, this West Michigan nice, and try it. Because usually it's against us, right? There's those microaggressions. But what if you change the narrative? And I'm not saying be mean, but you do the same thing. You're just really nice. I have a really good friend. I think she's on here today. And she always says, you know what, you said whatever. And it's not even that I told him off, but I said what I had to say. And I was really nice about it. I didn't use any profanity. I smiled because I meant what I said, and I was okay with it after I said it, right? I did not apologize. Because again, if you don't do it, it will fester inside of you sometimes, right? But you have to figure out a way to say it, and say it nicely, like, okay, but I just don't agree, and that doesn't make sense, and just all those things. But just from now on, please remember that, like, walk in who you are, and don't apologize for anything, not your hair, not your skin color, not your hips, none of it. Never apologize for who you are. Yeah, I'm not going to be pencil thin, right? That's, not since I was in my early 20s. It's just, I'm not going to be there anymore. So please, if I don't say anything else, because I watch sometimes, and I watch our newer employees, and they try to kind of blend in, and don't. Continue to stay in that salad bowl, right? Continue to be that tomato or cucumber that sticks out in that salad bowl. Do not try to jump into the soup and blend in. That's it.
Any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to say I posted it in the chat that like I said, I'm usually teaching, but I want everyone to know that as interim associate dean, I am on campus almost every day from 8 to 5. So I'm around. You can find me. If you call my extension, it goes to my cell phone. So if I know how I can find you, I just told you how you can find me. So we can continue connecting and supporting.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I did want to say one thing is for we as women, let's take the judgment off of each other a little bit too, because we don't always talk about that, but we're pretty hard on each other and we judge each other for so daggone much. And I just want us to just embrace, if you are truly comfortable with who you are and who you were created to be, you don't have to put the judgment on anybody else. You don't have to move them out of their place, because we all have a place in this world, in this culture, in this institution, and wherever we go, we all have a place. And you don't have to be nasty to pull somebody else down, because where you're meant to be is where you're meant to be. So take the judgment off and see each other truly as sisters and brothers. You can work more corporately that way if we learn to do this. So just my little piece. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other final comments before we wrap up? All right.
I just want to say, I
go
just have
ahead.
something quick to say. I just want to say that I did enjoy being here today. And there's a lot of information that not that I shared, but I gathered from other people who were here today. I'm really grateful for the questions, because the questions caused us to think about the responses, but also to internalize it. So it was a learning session here, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And one last thing I've learned is, and I learned it from Joyce Meyer, whatever you have to do, she says, do it scared. The fear will sometimes be there, but don't let the fear stop you. It's emotions. If you want to reach out, if you want to make yourself friendly, do it scared. Fear is just an emotion. Fear is not, it's something you feel, but never let it stop you. So whatever you need to do at GRCC and in your life, do it scared.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, I think you all probably shared a gem or some sort of sentiment that could easily have wrapped up this great conversation. So I will just say we'll sit and we'll resonate and reflect on a lot of things that were shared, all of the learning points that were received. Just sit with that and take it with you as we kind of come to a close here. Dustin, if you could put up the QR code as I am wrapping up. We want to receive feedback. We want to hear your thoughts about today's conversations, whether that be we need more of these, whether that you need different accommodations and things like that. So please take a moment to share your feedback, your thoughts with us as we're continuing to galvanize and create different programs for this campus, for our people, and continue to get to know each other and learn in these spaces. So I've given folks a moment to hopefully scan the QR code, and if not, I'll definitely have a follow-up email for sure. But in closing, I want to thank you all, panelists. You are amazing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for agreeing to participate, being authentic, sharing some very vulnerable and transparent moments in this time. We're really appreciative and the leadership and the things that you do on this campus. And we want to continue to support you even after today's conversation. So thank you so much as we close.